we go.
Isn't it great? It is Florida.
Just so we don't have to plow.
Larry,
Well, there's others that say they'd like to.
I know they're.
Okay, be careful, because you,
Oh, yeah.
they're gonna accuse you of.
Larry wouldn't miss
Jim, are
this
you
for the
handling,
world.
are you handling it?
No.
Or is Jim?
Me,
Jim is.
maybe after the,
Councilman, 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
30
No, I know
seconds.
what you're saying.
Okay.
No, I know what you're
Tells-
saying. That's what we need to,
And Councilman Hug is on his way. He
Okay.
just called.
All right.
she's here, I know she's here.
Mayor and Krista, we're ready.
Okay, ready.
This is the pre-council meeting for the city of Joliet, Monday, December 3rd, 2012, 3:30 PM. We'll start with roll call. Mayor Girani.
Here?
Councilwoman Barber. Here. Councilman Fisher.
Here.
Councilman Girl.
Here.
Councilman Hug. Councilman Morris.
here,
Councilman Odekirk.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman. Councilman Turk.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could have you turn your attention to Council Memo 545. It's at the end of your packet, 545-12, and that is for the issuance of a Class C liquor license for Tony's Finer Foods. That'll be locating at the southeast corner of Route 59 and Caton Farm Road. I'm asking Deputy Liquor Commissioner Jim Murphy to address the issue.
Thank you. A hearing was held on November 8th, 2012 for the issuance of a Class C liquor license at 2300 Illinois Route 59. It's a Plainfield address located within the city of Joliet, doing business as Tony's Finer Foods. Class C allows for packaged goods liquor sales on the premises only, and we have the ownership and the brain trust with us this morning, or this afternoon. Tony Ingrafia, Dominic Gambino, and Jim Marnos. Jim is the Director of Human Resources, and Jim's going to come up and say a few words in just a moment. The applicant, as I said, is Tony's Finer Foods No. 9, Inc. They currently own and operate 8 grocery stores throughout the Chicagoland area, and we are about to raise the bar for grocery store shopping in the city of Joliet. No citizens appeared in opposition to the requested license. This time, I'd like to invite Jim Marnos to say a few words.
Good afternoon, Council, and everyone in office here. It's been an honor to work with the mayor and the community to put our business here. It's venturing out of our comfort zone, but I gotta be honest, we feel so comfortable here. It feels like home already. The mayor really extended his hand to us, and we had an opportunity to work closely with him in organizing this store to come to tuition, so we're very honored. Both commissioners, Jim and Jim, also working close at hand to put the next steps in place so we can have a successful business in your community. We had a fantastic turnout at our job fair. I have to just commend the children and the people in this community. I haven't done a lot of job fairs, but the people who came in were top notch, and we're really excited to get some jobs created. If I could hire them all, honest to God, I would have. But obviously, we have only so many spaces available. So it's an honor to be here. Mayor, honestly, thank you so much for all your help and the team that you put together and to help us. We really appreciate it. Jim and Jim, thank you as well, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
A resident manager has yet to be named. Once one is chosen, they will go through the background check process. Tony's Finer Foods recently held a job fair, as Jim said. They're in the process of hiring 150 part-time and 50 full-time employees. There are no outstanding monies owed to the city. If the license is granted at this time, it will be held until final inspections are performed by the building, fire, and police departments. The Liquor Commission is recommending approval.
Oh, it's so moved, Your Honor.
Second. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think some of you may know that we have been working with Tony's Finer Foods for several months. It is a very competitive economic climate that we're in, and there was some discussion about an economic incentive that would be provided. The Village of Niles did an agreement with Tony's Finer Foods last year and had a sales tax incentive agreement that was put in place. It's a fairly modest agreement. It's a total of $200,000 of incentives that would be extended, that was extended to Tony's Finer Foods in Niles in working with the mayor's office through negotiations with the Tony's Finer Food teams. We have reached a recommendation to provide the same type of incentive package to Tony's to come here. There were other spots that were being considered, and we wanted to make sure that we put our best offer on the table, which did the job of attracting a high-quality store to Joliet. There would be a formal agreement that would need to come before you, but we wanted to let you know before you vote on the license that that would be part of the agreement.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
When is opening date?
We're looking probably the 1st of January,
Okay,
first week of January.
great. You have a great location. I think you're going to do very, very well on 59.
I just want to point out all the remodeling. I'm not sure how much money was involved, but it was all done by union. And they said, they're looking at about 200 jobs that they're going to bring to the area. So, any other comments, questions?
It's been motioned and seconded to issue a Class C liquor license to Tony's Finer Foods, number 9, Inc. Councilwoman Barber?
Aye.
Councilman Fisher?
Aye?
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Welcome, I'm very excited about it. I'll vote aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Mayor Girani?
Aye, and good luck.
Motion
Welcome.
carried.
Thank you.
And I know, Mr. Mayor, they've got a few things to take care of to get the store open on time, so you're certainly welcome to stick
Leave.
around if you'd like, but if you've
Gotta go to work.
got to go to work, that's right. That's right.
Thank you, everybody. Come meet us.
Sure.
See you guys soon.
Good
luck.
Okay.
See everybody at the grand opening.
Good seeing you, good luck.
I'll be there. Thank you.
Meet you.
Okay, take care.
Coming back.
Take care. Good job. Good work.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I have on the agenda an update from Centerpoint. If it's okay with the council, we'll defer that until the next pre-council meeting on December 17th. They'll have an update on where they stand with a lot of the projects that they've been working on. We don't have anything else to be moved up. I know Father Raymond Lesher has asked to be heard, as a citizen to be heard. It may be appropriate if you'd like to take Father Lesher now and hear his comments.
So move.
Second.
He,
He's on the agenda, right?
Yeah, he
On the
did sign
agenda,
up.
right,
He did
so-
sign up,
and
yeah.
we're just moving citizens to be
Right.
heard up to
Yeah.
accommodate Father Lesher.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stannis. Before I preach on Sunday at Sacred Heart, you're all invited to come to Sacred Heart any Sunday. You have to leave your watches at home, though, because it's not a quickie. We used to all look for that quickie mass, but this one we celebrate. But anyway, I always have a couple preambles before I get into the homily, and they're just short, and they're just events that are going on in our community or in our church. So before I give my address tonight, I just have one preamble, please. And it is the following, that I know that Mr. Thanis has presented a very positive picture of the Corrections Corporation of America to you. And there is another side, and that's why I'm here tonight. Especially those of us who have worked in corrections are well aware of this other side. I think you received a letter recently from Sister Juanita Usik, who wrote a letter to the editor in the Joliet Herald entitled, "The Detention Center Will Hurt, Not Help Joliet." Like her, I also have a long corrections experience before coming back into active priesthood. So I address you today with the goal of just trying to plant a question, maybe a doubt, in each one of you that will lead you to do your own research into this very, very important issue. The CCA has a very accessible track record. They have a very accessible paper trail. They own over 66 prisons in our country. So today the issue is the CCA. Only the CCA is the only issue, not any personalities. So, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Thanis, other City of Joliet staff, and my fellow citizens. I am here today to ask you in the strongest language possible to vote down the proposed detention facility, which would be run by the Corrections Corporation of America, an anti-union, for-profit private organization. Before returning to active ministry as pastor at Sacred Heart Church 15 years ago, I worked as a manager for the Ramsey County Community Corrections Department in Minnesota for 23 years. Working in the corrections field, I became all too aware of the terrible track record that the CCA had and continues to have in the eyes of state corrections departments throughout our nation. In fact, the state of Minnesota allowed the CCA to run one of their prisons to handle inmates from Cuba. Shortly after they started, they experienced the biggest riot in Minnesota's corrections history. To this day, the state of Minnesota regrets their decision to let the CCA in. The facility closed their doors within 5 years. So let's not make the same potentially damaging mistake here. I read where Mr. Thanis talked about bringing in good paying jobs to our community. You just voted in a new food place in town tonight. I think his statement, though, is only half true. The only good paying jobs, living wage jobs, will go to the building trade unions who build the facility. The CCA has a bad track record of low-paying jobs for its line staff, 90% of its workforce. Upper management is paid very, very well, and upper management basically comes from them. It is estimated that current state workers at the Illinois Youth Facility in Joliet would suffer almost a 50% decrease in wages, plus not having the benefits that their union currently gives them. The CCA is a for-profit organization. The bottom line is not paying a living wage to their line staff. Their bottom line is making a profit. To make as much profit as possible, the CCA cuts corners everywhere. Cutting corners by low pay, few benefits for line staff, staff training, inmates' food costs, inmates' health care costs, and even regular everyday supplies. This is a national picture, a national pattern. In addition, we are facing many hidden costs for running a detention center, so forcibly pointed out last Wednesday in Sister Juanita's letter to you and also her letter to the editor in the Joliet Herald. Hidden costs related to municipal infrastructure, local police and fire security, safety issues. Other costs include impact on water, sewer, waste disposal, fire protection, fire inspection, health inspection, food handling inspections, road usage, etc. Also, will the CCA receive tax incentives or any other sweetheart deals to lure them here? In this proposed facility, the majority of inmates will not speak English. Multiple languages will include Spanish, Polish, Russian, and Asian and African languages, leading to all kinds of daily anxieties and potential physical alterations among inmates and staff. Every time I hear from someone that Joliet prides itself on being a union town, I ask them what time of the century are they talking about. We know that 62% of all the workers in Will County warehouses are not only not union, but even not full-time. 62% are temp workers receiving part-time poverty wages with no benefits. Now you are considering to add another Walmart-type business to our community. What a horrible message we will be giving to our Joliet citizens struggling mightily in this depressing economic environment if you allow the CCA to come in. I ask you to talk to the leadership in the Illinois State Department of Corrections to verify what I am saying about CCA. Also, check out the number of lawsuits that have been filed against the CCA in the last 10 years by both inmates and staff. One truism in the corrections field: if you build it, we will fill it. There will be tremendous pressure placed on the government's Immigration Police Task Force to arrest undocumented workers quickly to fill this new prison. Our Hispanic brothers and sisters, upwards of 40 to 50% in this city who are undocumented, have every right to be anxious, concerned, and scared of this prison in the shadow of their homes and community. I might add that before President Obama, just shortly before his election, he made an executive order saying only criminals would be arrested. Previous to that, it's documented, 90% of all the people arrested are non-criminals. Basically, traffic offenders that got caught, 90%. Even after this new, we're only going after the murderers and things like that, a lot of non-criminals are still getting swept up. I conclude with Sister Juanita's last line in her letter to the editor: the host cities of CCA do not share in the profit, only the problems. I thank you for letting me address you today.
Thank you, Father.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we don't have anything else to be moved up. We have before you the approval of of the 2013 meeting schedule. It should be the second sheet of paper or the second page in your iPad, and it follows the format we've followed for many years. There are 3 meetings where we have Monday holidays, where we're recommending a consolidation of the pre-council and the regular meeting. That would be on February 19th, September 3rd, and October 15th. And then we also have this year a pre-council meeting falling on December 31st of 2012 with the regular meeting on January 1st. Our recommendation is just to cancel those 2 meetings. If a special meeting is needed that first week of January or the second week of January before our regular January 14th and 15th meetings, we can certainly have one called. We are asking for formal approval of the meeting schedule, and then we would ask the city clerk to publish it accordingly.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
I do have one question. And it could be because of the schedule to keep us on task with the 1st and the 3rd. I was thinking we would meet the 7th of January, but then that would take away from the 1st and 3rd of the month instead of having 2 back-to-back.
We would have
Because it'll be a whole
back-to-
month before we have another meeting then?
It would be, well, our next meeting would be December 18th, and then after that, it would be 28 days, so about 4 weeks later. That's why I suggested if there's any need for a meeting, that we could always call it on 48 hours notice. Yeah, 48 hours notice. So, we'll certainly work with you on scheduling it if there's a need for it.
Okay, thanks.
Kristen?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Fisher?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Barber?
Aye.
Mayor Durrani?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And if we can go back to the top of the agenda, we'll have the approval of the minutes from the November 19th and 20th meetings for your review tomorrow evening. There will also be committee reports from the various council committees that have met since our last meeting. Council memo number 527-12 is an award of certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. The city has again been bestowed the award from GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, regarding our financial reporting standards. And this will be the 13th consecutive year that the city has received the award. And that'll be a presentation made tomorrow evening. Next item, 528-12, is a request to fill position vacancies. The first item is a maintenance worker position. We had come to you in September to fill this position. Actually, we had come to you to fill a supervisory position, a maintenance foreman position, and then fill subsequent vacancies from within. without going outside. The entry-level position, though, was not bid for by any of the local 440 members, so that remains unfilled. So there have been no internal applicants. We've reviewed with you previously the current workforce situation in our roadways division. We're asking for authority to fill that position, and we'd like to move fairly quickly on it so we can have somebody in before the winter season hits hard. Next item for position vacancies is a position of auto mechanic in the motor maintenance division. On this one, we're down substantially in that workforce, in that group. We're down about 20% of our staff. We're asking for authority to fill the position of auto mechanic and then fill subsequent vacancies from within. But if we reach a position with the entry-level position that it's not filled from within, we're asking for authority to advertise that and fill it from the outside. And then the last group that we're asking for authority to fill would be to proceed with hiring part-time crossing guards. We have a substantial shortage right now of crossing guards. We're asking for authority to hire 7 part-time crossing guards under the modified pay schedule that was approved by the council in December of 2010. These would be employees who would fill in when we have absences at the various corners. Currently, Chief Trafton has been having to fill some of the corners with active police officers on duty, and that certainly is not a good situation for us considering the needs to have their presence elsewhere. So we're asking for tomorrow evening for your authority to fill those positions. Next item, 529-12, is a renewal of our relationship with Blue Cross Blue Shield. The first page of the council memo sets forth the percentage changes. Some are going down, some are going up in the various areas that we pay Blue Cross Blue Shield to administer our PPO plan and then also our life insurance plan. This is consistent with what we've done in the past. We are seeing some increases, especially in the life insurance part. And as you know, we don't have a true life insurance. It's basically a death benefit that's available for union employees after they retire or while they're active. We did make a change last year with management where we went with term insurance of $50,000, but once the management employee separates from the city, no longer is working for us, whether retires or goes someplace else to work, then there's no further obligation to pay any kind of death benefit. But through the union contracts, those are still present for 90% of our workforce. Staff is recommending approval of the Blue Cross Blue Shield rates. Next item, 530-12. That's a request to enter into a letter of intent with IDOT for the design and installation of a sound wall or a sound barrier along I-55 between Black Road and Route 52. Those of you who are familiar with that stretch of road, part of it is actually in the city, or I'm sorry, the village of Shorewood. Part of it's in the city of Joliet. The village of Shorewood has a commercial corridor there with a motorcycle sales place there, along with a couple of other businesses. And a decision was made several years ago not to put a sound wall in front of those businesses, thereby blocking the view of those businesses from I-55. What was offered to us by IDOT, and it's in the letter that's attached, is to take funding from IDOT and actually put a sound wall behind the businesses on the berm that is part of the Wooded Creek subdivision. The agreement before you allows us to start that process. There will have to be a sound study done. We'll be using IDOT funding for the sound study, IDOT funding for the construction of the wall. The wall itself, though, would not be owned by IDOT. We've made it clear with the Homeowners Association of Wooded Creek that the city would not want to own the wall either. So the wall would actually be on Wooded Creek property, and it would be owned and maintained by Wooded Creek. We would obtain a construction easement from Wooded Creek, but that would be it. They would be responsible for insuring it and taking care of any kind of future maintenance or replacement that may be needed. All of this is contingent upon a sound study, though, being done to make sure that the wall will actually serve as a sound barrier. This will go before the Public Service Committee tomorrow morning. There will be representatives from the Wooded Creek HOA to speak to it. Staff is recommending moving forward with the letter of intent.
Your Honor, I have one question. Will the sound wall then go all the way down to 52?
It will not,
It'll
no.
just stop at Wooded Creek?
It'll just be along the berm of Wooded Creek.
Okay.
And if you recall, it actually, I-55 moves at a diagonal from there. So at the north end of Wooded Creek, those homes are closer to I-55 than the homes at the south end. So it'll just go along the berm and stop. Is it Deer Run or Deer Creek? Deer Run Estates, right. That will not be part of this. There was a decision made because their yards are relatively small and having a high wall in their backyards, I think they declined to have the sound wall included in their subdivision.
I think they were satisfied with that barrier that was put up for the visual.
Yes.
The light, yeah.
And that seems to have worked very nicely.
Right.
Next item, council memo number 531-12. That's the annexation of 21 acres at 1320 East Cass Street. The request is coming from the Joliet Catholic Diocese. It's the Mount Olivet Cemetery. There's a request to have the city annex the property so the property can be serviced with city water. It's going to be zoned as R2. I doubt that there'd be many other uses for it. I don't think it's completely full. There's probably a few spaces left, but it's almost built out, or I guess built out isn't the proper word. What's the word, Jim? Filled up. That's it. I don't know how many registered voters are in here, so I'll let the politicians worry about that. But our recommendation is to approve the annexation and the rezoning. There is an annexation agreement that goes with this. I'm not sure if it has much meaning, though, considering if by some chance the use is ever discontinued and there's a relocation of the graves, there might be an issue. So that's why the annexation agreement is included. And that will be before the council tomorrow night for a public hearing, and then you'll be authorized to vote on it. Next item, 532, is the annual budget, and if I can ask you to hold that until we deal with a couple more matters, and we'll come back to that for the public hearing on that. Next item, 533-12, is an MFT resolution for the pavement marking program for 2012, allocating additional funds. Total amount would be a little over, just under $25,000, and we're recommending approval of that. 535-12 is the regular payroll report for November 21st, 2012, along with the overtime report that is on the last sheet of paper that's part of that. The remaining items are council memos dealing with award of contracts and change orders. That'll be reviewed by the Public Service Committee tomorrow morning here in this room at 7:15. If you don't have anything else you'd like for us to address, I'd ask you then to go back to council memo number 532-12. And that is the ordinance approving the 2013 annual budgets for the city and the library and the Foreign Fire Insurance Board. I believe that is the only item left on the agenda, except for a tour of the renovated city council chambers, which we thought we'd hold that to the end. That is part of the public meeting, so the public's certainly welcome to accompany us to that, to the remodeled council chambers. But then we would ask after that to go into closed session, and then we would ask then to adjourn after that without taking any final action on anything. So with your permission, part of this part of this item includes a public hearing on the adoption of the 2013 budget. Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to open the public hearing and see if there's any comment. It was advertised, and we've advertised all of our public review sessions on the budget extensively. And we just wanted to see if there's anybody here that wants to address the council
Is there anyone
before you
want
deliberate.
to address the budget? Is there anyone who wants to address the budget? Lastly, anyone want to address the budget? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we'd be happy to address any issues that you have. As I've mentioned previously, the budget focuses on not increasing real estate taxes or any other taxes or fees, providing an allocation to hire 10 new police officers, adding additional contributions for the police and fire pension funds, and including revenue or funding for capital improvements. I know it's been a while since we purchased some vehicles. We did that in 2012. There's money that's allocated in this budget for some capital, certainly not to the level that we used to have for capital purchases, but certainly trying to make a dent in some of the needs that we've developed over the last 5 years. The staff is ready to answer any questions that you may have or address any particular areas of the budget you'd like for us to
Does anyone have
respond
any
to.
questions?
Yeah, Mayor. Sure. The only question I had, Tom, and I think I mentioned it to you, is, and I might stand corrected, last year when we cut certain subsidies, or not completely, but a little, we talked about weaning. Did we do anything to wean this year? Weaning the-
Yes, a reduction in some areas, I think specifically dealing with some of the other agencies that we've supported, other entities. In one particular area, last year, just for context, we had substantial reductions in the city's allocation for the Rialto Theater, Joliet Area Historical Museum, and Bicentennial Park, as well as many other reductions that we started back in 2008. Many of the social service agencies, school districts, a lot of those that we started eliminating various allocations for those entities. This year, the budget includes a recommendation to reduce the annual commitment or the investment that the city makes for the Will County Center for Economic Development. I think you all heard John Grueling, who was here about a month and a half ago, address some of the things that the CED has been doing. Despite all the things they're doing, this budget includes a reduction of $25,000 for the city's allocation to the CED. Some of that reflects a restructuring of the City Center Partnership that is occurring right now. The CED will continue to house the City Center Partnership rent-free. Will continue to provide assistance as far as actually employing the people who work for the City Center Partnership, taking care of their benefits, providing technology for them, computers, access to the internet, also providing health insurance for the employees. So we are not being billed separately for that, nor is the City Center Partnership being billed for that separately. That's part of the overhead of the partnership that's absorbed by the CED. So that's some of the in-house things they do. They'll continue doing their economic development outreach that they do in helping us obviously keep our area growing. So that's really the only major change that you have in front of you. That one's gone too, right. So that was the discussion we had last
Right.
week. I was trying to go the entire budget session without mentioning the words water park, but that's okay.
You can thank me later.
Okay.
Gone.
The other
Oh,
question
that's
I had,
Rachel, but that's it.
this council approved, a $200,000 a year per year commitment to the museum. Is there logic behind doing 275, doing more than the minimum?
Well, the 275 is actually down from 350, where it was, plus some additional contributions that were being made. I think you heard Tony Contos, the executive director of the museum, indicate that he and his staff and the board members of the museum are very active in trying to get corporate contributions. That's really how museums sustain themselves. And I think you saw at the Little Theater at Joliet Central High School, you saw ExxonMobil, a company that is a big part of our community, even though it's not within the corporate limits of Joliet, they stepped up and they gave a $50,000 contribution. A lot of that involved Tony and his team and the board members letting them know that the city is committed to the museum. And I know that my recommendation was to go the full 10 years because it does help them show that there is strong commitment that the museum will be there and that their investment will go a long ways. Other local corporations have donated substantial amounts of money. Harris has given $25,000. Tony's got the list, but we can get that for you. But there are other major contributions that have come. As far as dropping it down from 275 to 200, the difference with the museum and some of the other entities is we actually own the building. We have maintenance responsibility. Well, we have capital improvement responsibility, roof issues, a lot of window issues, a lot of things that are responsibility for what is a very old building. And Jim, I don't know how old it is. Is it close to 100 years old, if not older? And it was obviously completely renovated in the early 2000s. So it was in great shape then, but like any other building that's been in existence for that long, it's got some wear and tear and some issues that are now coming to the forefront. And that's why our money goes primarily for maintenance of the physical plant.
So there'll be $275,000 worth of maintenance next year?
Well, there will be some capital improvements that'll have to be done, and there's some money in our capital budget. Now, our original agreement going back to 2001 or 2 obligates the city to take care of capital improvements, no matter what they are. If the roof falls in tonight, it would be the city's responsibility to replace it, not the museum board's. As far as the day-to-day operations, I don't know what all the bills are, but I know, it's got an elevator, it's got a roof, it's got windows, it's got those things that need constant attention. And while they don't take our direct allocation and say this is for the maintenance of this building, it certainly helps defray the cost or cover the cost of the maintenance part. So that's why, the number was set many years ago at 350,000, went up to 350. We've been able to pare that back through the lean times. And, if I thought we could go down a little bit more, I would. But last year's step down was a substantial hit for them. They did step up with a lot of fundraising. They do a lot of fundraisers. The gala was successful. It was sold out. I mean, they do put a lot of volunteer staff time into trying to, keep the finances flowing. So, I don't know if I answered your question or not. If you need some more information, I mean, we can certainly get it for you.
Well, I bring it up for one reason. It may sound kind of odd to say this, but it's in protection of these entities. We certainly, we have a balanced budget, and that I'm happy for. And I thank you and the entire staff for bringing that forward and making the necessary cuts to fit within the revenues, to spend what we have. We don't have a balanced staff or balanced services yet. We're still way down. Okay, so we still have a lot to do moving forward, and I don't think it's any secret for those that just follow it in the media, let alone may have some access to folks down in Springfield to talk to them, that it's getting closer to certain that we're going to have another casino. And if we don't discuss this up front now, why there's still a what if attached to it, there's going to come a day, if it happens, worst case scenario, and we lose that $5 million, that we're going to have to tug the entire rug out from under them, and I think that's unfair to them. I thought the weaning idea was the good idea, for them to get off in a direction to where they didn't need us, whether we're on a high note or whether we're financially strapped, and I didn't see us doing it this year.
I think you'll find that most community museums in towns our size or even smaller cannot survive on their own. There's always a subsidy coming from the community. And again, I haven't studied the issue to give you a list of 20 museums and show what the local match is, but when you look at facilities like a museum, like the Rialto, the theaters that are in communities, it's rare that they're self-sustaining. And that's why I think if this community wants to have a museum and celebrate its heritage and its culture and memorialize the great things that have happened in the 160 years that we've been a community, the museum becomes the repository for that. And that's why ExxonMobil saw great value into contributing $50,000, and Rick Zalek made it clear that that's just the beginning. He was that impressed. I'm meeting with them next week to talk about some other things that ExxonMobil is interested in doing in the community. So, it's something that even through tough times, you still have to keep moving forward with some things, and that would include a facility like the museum. I don't think that even if there is a new casino that is licensed in the south suburbs, I don't know if that's such a doom and gloom result that causes us to have to pull back on all of the commitments that we make to other agencies. I think that's something that'll be an exercise in prioritizing what this council deems to be important in this community and what may have to take a back seat for a while.
If I may, being a member of the board and make 85–90% of the meetings, I have very often made them aware of the gaming situation and what it's going to cost the city. They know that should things get real tough, that they could be cut back some more. That board is made up of professional and business people that go out of their way to raise money to keep the place afloat. It is an asset to the city. I think it's a worthwhile asset, and I said this when I was on the park board. I would get phone calls that we need more ice sheets or we need another golf course or whatever. And I said, it'd be nice if we could have one facility that everybody could use, but unfortunately we can't do that. So I think in order to be a great city, which we are, we have to diversify, and that is well needed. And as Tom said, it's something we own, and if we don't keep it up, it's going to deteriorate. So I think it's in our best interest to keep it up while we can. Hopefully things will work out with the gaming, but if not, those people, I make them aware of where we're at with our budget. So.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may. Tom, you and I have talked about this before, the Rialto. It's called the Will, and I want you to do an explanation because I get these questions all the time. It's called the Will County Metropolitan Auditorium Authority. And the mayor has 4 appointments, and the governor has 3 appointments, I believe. And so it's made up of 7. But the county very seldom gives any money. We pretty much subsidize the Rialto. And so could you please explain to folks why the governor gets 3 appointments? And I know they've been down an appointment for several years, and I understand they may be appointing a new.
I was called by somebody from the office to give them a couple names, so I did.
Right. But my question is, people want to know, well, why doesn't the state or the county give money as well as the city, since they're all involved in it?
Maybe just winding the clock back a little bit to the late 1970s when the Rialto was scheduled for the Wrecking Ball. That's probably a good, and I'll try not to take up too much time here, but through an effort of local Joliet residents, a movement started to save the Rialto. Then State Representative Leroy Van Dyne took up the cause on behalf of the community and was able to secure a very large grant. And I don't recall, and I don't know, Jim's the only old guy here who might remember, but it was probably more than that. But it was a very large grant from the state of Illinois to help fund a complete top-to-bottom renovation of the Rialto Theater. Those of us who've been going to it for the last 30-some years always think it's been that way. It wasn't that way going back 35, 40 years ago. It was in pretty rundown condition, and it was at risk at that time. So the state stepped up, provided the seed money to get the facility renovated. There were local dollars that were contributed both privately through individuals and corporations, but the city of Joliet also saw great value into a facility that would attract over 200,000 people a year to come to downtown Joliet and add culture and add to our sales tax and other tax bases. It has been a success. You don't necessarily measure success in facilities like that by the bottom line. Has the city had to subsidize it? Yes, in order to make the numbers work. That's been the case. I know that the subsidy has been decreasing, and I think I had very serious conversations with all the executive directors of all the agencies going back several years ago, but last year especially, when I told them that get your contingency plan in place, because if the gaming bill passes, there's no doubt we'll be going to everybody looking at another reduction across the board. And when I say everybody, that includes a lot of different interests, not just the other organizations that we support. But the entity that owns and operates the Rialto Theater is a separate governmental agency. It is not owned by the city or the county or the state. It's a separate entity that was created by a state law. The mayor and the governor were given authority to appoint the people who run the Rialto board. They in turn hire an executive director, and then the executive director hires a staff to support it. The city subsidy has been as high, and I think there were probably a couple of years where it may have come close to $1 million. Now we're down to $600,000, which I know is a lot of money, but when you look at the return on investment, and again, sometimes hard to measure, but talk to the local restaurants in town, the downtown restaurants, that will tell you when there's a weekday show, their restaurants are full. And it's very, very good for them to have the Rialto. Obviously, there's some jobs that are created, and it's still a beautiful building that none of us want to give up on. So that's why the city has been involved. We're always looking for ways to try to reduce our level of participation. There were some things talked about that will get that going, and we'll certainly keep pursuing it. I know that the Rialto board is still pursuing state grants, so the state has maintained a fairly high involvement with state grants from the beginning and even now. And there may be one that will get announced fairly soon, I hope. As far as the county, the county has supported the Rialto. I don't know the exact dollars, how much has been there, but there's been support. Again, the county board all 26 of them now, plus a county executive, come from various parts of Will County. Not all of them are that familiar with Joliet, and I think for them, it's probably a little harder vote for someone from the Beecher area or from Wilmington to vote to allocate county funds for the Rialto Theater. Even though their residents may come and enjoy it, it's probably not a big number that do, and it's probably something that is much easier for us because it has such a great impact on our downtown and our local economy. So that's why Joliet's involvement has been much greater than the county's. Did I answer your question?
Well, it wasn't really my question. I knew all that. I just wanted it for the public record
Yes.
because people always ask that. When I knew you could explain it.
It's not, people sometimes think we own it, and we don't. And it's a very expensive building to own and operate. So we're probably fortunate that we don't own it, but we're even more fortunate, though, to have it in our community. We are just too close to it. I think when people come from outside and see how beautiful it is, the big name performers that have performed there, 3 blocks from City Hall, it's incredible. And, you know, there are some of the towns in Illinois who profess to be better than all the other towns. They do not have the Rialto Theater, nor the level of entertainment that we have. So, and I remind them of that when I talk to them, and that, you know, we certainly surpass them when it comes to entertainment.
You know, along those same lines, Tom, I just got to thank all the volunteers that they have over there. Can you imagine what the upkeep would be if they had to pay all them volunteers over there? And they put in a lot of time and save a lot of money.
Yeah, I think there was an appreciation, there is an appreciation dinner, I believe, or some kind of an award or recognition.
Every April.
Every year, yeah.
we
So
have
that, and it's a great network. There's another area where there have been major corporate contributions made. There's a foundation that was started a few years ago, and maybe at some point in the next few months we could have the Rialto kind of review that at a meeting so we can get the word out as to all the other people that participate in that. It's just not the city of Joliet carrying the responsibility.
Mayor? While I didn't wish to turn it into such a long discussion, again, I can say that moving forward for 2013, we've got a balanced budget. However, we're still going to be down, I think, 54 police officers, over 40 public works. I've got an ambulance in my district consistently shut down. So the balanced budget, in light of the services, we're not there yet where I can stop asking these questions. We're just not there yet. And publicly, I needed to ask those questions.
Yeah, and Councilman, I'm not going to tell you that I'm satisfied or the staff's satisfied. I can assure you the police chief, the fire chief, and all of the department heads would come in here and tell you that we're not satisfied with our staffing levels, and we're not satisfied with our inability to provide service at a higher level. What this is a one-year budget that gets us through the year in a balanced manner. We are not the federal government. We cannot print money. This is not a 5-year plan, though, and we really do need to start looking at the 5-year plan, planning for some contingencies, some that might be good, some that might be bad, and start looking at that. And I think that will go a long way to help us focus on, you know, the 4 or 5 key ingredients that will help us survive a possible gaming bill that gets passed, or even get us ready for some good things that could happen, especially in the commercial development world, where if we are able to, you know, channel our resources, you know, there's still a lot of great things that can happen on the commercial front.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to go back to the Center for Economic Development, the $125,000 support level, which I think is fine, going from 150 to 125. But there has been an unwritten agreement between the city and the Center for Economic Development that there would be a 50-50 split of whatever support that the city gave between the City Center Partnership, which is basically support for the downtown and downtown restaurants and economic development and so on, and the Will County Chamber of Commerce, Will County Center for Economic Development. And I would like that could be more formalized, that there would be some type of a record to that, that this tradition over the last 15 years would carry on in this budget, and at least for this year.
Yes, in talking with John Grueling and a transition team that's been put together to help refocus the City Center Partnership on more of an economic development function, you'll see that there's still a high level of support coming from the CED for the City Center Partnership. We'll quantify that, and as we get into the new year, we'll provide updated reports. The City Center Partnership is going through a search process right now with a recruiting firm to look for a new executive director, one with a strong economic development background. And the goal there is to take what we have in downtown Joliet, this person will be assigned specifically to downtown Joliet, and take what the good things that are going on with the transportation center, Joliet Junior College project, all the other things that have happened through the years, and try to refocus our efforts in economic development to try to bring private investment dollars in some of the buildings that have sat empty for 20 years, some of the open sites that are ripe for development, and continue working with the county and other landowners in downtown Joliet trying to grow. So we'll get those, that information together. I think once a new executive director arrives on the scene, it'll help. You'll see that person on a regular basis. He or she will be reporting to you as far as recruiting efforts that are being done. And I know one thing that Councilman Fisher asked me about was making sure that the partnership doesn't lose focus of some of the events that it currently sponsors, and the tourism function that will continue on too. So, but obviously we want to turn the heat up on the economic development front and compete. You saw a little bit of competition with Tony's Finer Foods here. It took several meetings to get them to come here, and we know who we compete with when corporations are making decisions, and that's why we want to get more competitive, especially for the downtown area.
And where I'm going with this, Tom, is that on this 50-50 split, and just for a little historical background on it, the city 15, 16 years ago gave support to the Center for Economic Development of $75,000. We upped it by another $75,000. I can't remember exactly the year, but 15, 16 years ago. And the reason was for us starting the center, or the city center partnership, and all the planning and work that went on in the downtown area and advertising for our downtown restaurants. What I want to avoid, and I don't believe this will happen, but I'd like to have it formalized, is that all the budgeting items for the city center partnership for the downtown, including the economic development portion of it, which is a great idea and a great route to go, that it not all be taken out of the special service area allocation that goes to the city center partnership. That there is an understanding that this $125,000 support, half of it or somewhere in there, also be dedicated and used for the downtown area and the city center partnership. That it's not all going to the Center for Economic Development.
Yeah, and I think we'll be able to provide you with reports on that, where a lot of the overhead costs that are currently absorbed by the CD, that will continue. So we'll quantify that and then bring that back to you and work with you.
Thank you.
Mayor? Tom, I know you touched just a little bit on the gaming bill and possibly additional casinos in Illinois, and I know there's been I know you've had your finger on the pulse on this deal for quite some time, and there's been numerous discussions, just from what we read in the paper, between the governor and the mayor of Chicago as far as getting a casino in Chicago. Can you maybe give us a little update as far as where that bill is at, possibly what's in that bill, the potential impact it could have on Joliet, and if there is a casino located in the south suburbs? So could you just maybe give us a little history and then kind of where we're at today as far as current date?
Sure. Nothing was announced as far as what the tentative agreement may be between the governor and Mayor Emanuel. There is one theory that there might be just one license, a Chicago license, that would be part of this bill. Take care of that first and then work on other aspects. If that were to happen, I don't think it would, because I think it will need other votes to get something like that passed. I don't think the Mayor Emanuel will be able to pull together enough votes in the legislature to have that happen. But if that were to happen, we would probably be looking at about a 5 to 6% decrease in gaming revenue for the city of Joliet through the gaming tax. That translates roughly to about $1 million a year. A similar impact that the Rivers Casino had on Joliet's bottom line when it came to gaming revenue. Initially, the spike was much higher, but since then it's leveled off to the 5-6% that we had predicted before Rivers opened. We think we'd see the same thing if it was just a Chicago license. If the bill includes a license for the south suburbs, a lot will depend on the position of the casino, the location of the casino. If it's on the I-80 corridor, an easy hop from Joliet, whether it's 15, 20, 25 minutes, we are projecting that the decrease for Joliet would be about 25% of gaming revenue, which is the $5 million number that we have talked about. That won't happen overnight. If there's a bill that comes out of the veto session or the lame duck session, it will take the gaming board at least 18 months, maybe even longer, to go through an approval process, and then there will be construction that'll have to happen. So we are probably not looking at a major impact on the Joliet budget until late 2014 or possibly 2015. That doesn't mean we don't have to worry about it until then. We certainly start raising the issue, as Councilman Hugg has been and others of you have, start right away as far as preparing for that scenario. But we obviously are very concerned. If it's located on the Indiana border, further north, closer to the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana, then at that point the reduction in the Joliet business will be less than 25%. I really don't know what that number would be, though. Someplace between 5 and 25. I don't know what it would be, and we're actually looking at that now to try to quantify it. It would seem to make more sense for a license to be located there. It's kind of the Hegwish portion of Chicago, where the Skyway starts coming up out of the ground, because that's where the traffic is driving by right now to go to the Horseshoe Casino. And we'd certainly, I think we would fare better with a location there. There have been a couple other locations, Linwood, Ford Heights, a few others that are right on the border. Those, I think, will have an impact not as severe as an I-80 corridor license, but those would still take away some of the business that's there now. So what will happen next week or this week with the veto session, I'm not sure. The mayor and I met with one of the legislators from our area at noon today, went through the various scenarios, and he is obviously in the middle of this, objecting on our behalf. He knows that there's not a lot of compromise out there that we'd be satisfied with. Our position remains we're opposed to any new licenses in the south suburbs.
Thank you.
Mayor? Tom, the I-80 corridor one might be the $250 million proposal or concept that came out just a couple of weeks ago at 294 and 9480. What is that, Country Club Hills?
Well, it was 80 and 57, I think,
80 and
for
57.
Country Club Hills, right.
And then there was another one in Homewood and
Yes.
another, yeah. so-
Homewood is teaming with East Hazelcrest.
That's it.
And both communities have actually invested money, hiring consultants to try to position themselves. That's further east than the Country Club Hills site. Will have less of an impact, but it's still on that I-80 corridor, which makes it easy for people to go there as opposed to coming to Joliet. So we would still oppose that location.
Now, the 5 or the 25% or anything in between, the estimated impact, the best we can do now is read the tea leaves. Is that including, you're referring to the South Suburban Casino, was it also considering the racinos?
Yes, that includes racinos, which we are vehemently opposed to those because our problem with horse racing industry getting casinos basically is that you will not see the level of investment that the casinos have made in Illinois. If you look at the 10 casinos, you've got, including the one in Metropolis, Illinois, which is 6 or 7 hours from here, you've got major hotel structures, banquet facilities, great pavilions, bars, restaurants, other amenities that the casino companies have invested. Our problem with the horse tracks is they have a lot of empty space right now because the horse racing industry, whether it's because of gaming or just because they haven't really recruited new business, their floor space is empty. And they can back up a truck, unload a bunch of slot machines, and call themselves a casino. And we don't think that's what the Riverboat Gambling Act was intended to do when it was passed in 1990. It's an economic development tool. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme for the owners of the horse tracks. It really doesn't involve any investment in the community like we've seen here in Joliet. We have great restaurants because of the casino industry, great bars, fantastic hotel down the street from City Hall, just a lot of neat things that have come our way, and you won't see that with the horse racing industry. You'll just see basically floor space with slot machines, and that's not what was intended by the legislature when they passed the Gambling Act in 1990.
Well, my suggestion has been for a year and a half, and I might voice it again in Springfield. If they do see fit to allow gambling at the racetracks, I want to lobby Springfield so that Harrah's and Hollywood can run horses in the lobby. Okay? That's about how much sense it makes.
Your Honor?
Yes.
You know what, I apologize, I meant to call you today on this, but, I know in the past you've contacted the governor either through phone calls or through the, letters to express the effect that the South Suburban Casino would have on the city of Joliet. And in the event of the latest discussions the last few days and over the weekend, I wonder if it would maybe behoove us to, through your office, to contact him again and just remind him that the kind of effect the South Suburban Casino would have. I'm sure he's aware of it, but if we remind him again.
Yeah. Sure, no problem. We can give him a call.
To do a conference call?
Hmm?
Conference call with all of us.
Call 'em up.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, there'll be a vote on the, if you're ready, for the budget for tomorrow evening. We will have the tax levy ordinances coming back to you at the December 17th and 18th meetings, but they'll be consistent with what you approve tomorrow night. There'll be no increase in the tax levy, assuming you vote in favor of the budget.
Okay.
And we have the library levy. That is something that we've been, by state law, we actually approve the levy that the library has. It's really separate from the city of Joliet, but we do include it in our budget ordinance now.
Okay.
If that is it, we do have the tour of the council chambers, so I think, Ben, what's that? And then I think we would go into closed session, so if we could do that motion. But the public is certainly welcome to come in and see the council chambers. There will be a brief ceremony to open the meeting tomorrow evening involving the mayor and the city council members, and then we'll get right to business in our renovated quarters.
So moved.
Second?
I think, go ahead and read it, Krista.
It's been motioned and seconded to tour the renovated council chambers and then go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition, or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which meeting will be adjourned. Councilman Grohl?
Aye.
Councilman Hugg?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Barber? Aye. Councilman Fisher?
Aye.
Mayor Durrani?
Aye.
Thank you.